Well, the main things are to make sure that we complete what needs to be done in achieving a food task of feeding 50, in the next 50 years, producing the same amount of food as humanity has had to this point. So that's a massive task. There will be 10 billion people in the world by 2050, and not only will we need more food, but they want a higher standard of food. So just making sure that we get trade going well, that we have the capacity for the innovation through genetic modification if required, so that we can get that, so we can feed people. Because remember, if you don't believe in genetic modification, we'll take off your shirt and take off anything made of cotton, because it's all genetically modified. You probably find the seed from the cotton plant's been fed to the cattle as well, so you're already kind of there. We've just got to try and do this efficiently and effectively and safely, but we've got to do it. We also want to make sure that other protein lines that we're not using globally, such as macropod, which is kangaroo, we can start using that. It's not going to solve anything, but it's going to make things easier. Trade's a big one, of course. If we put up trade barriers, and quite obviously that food's going to stay where it's produced and not move, and we want it to move fluidly around the world. Obviously, global warming is incredibly important. We've got to manage that, but I think we've got to make sure that we understand managing that is one issue. Producing food is something entirely different. What we've got to be careful of is we don't end up in this sort of slipstream where we just talk about global warming, as important as it is, and forget about our process of actually having to produce the food. If you're a realist, you might have to produce the food and deal with global warming at the same time. You might have to produce the food that is able to live with global warming. Because you can't say to starving people, well, sorry, we were just talking about global warming. We thought one of the ways to fix global warming was for you to starve to death. That is not a valid argument. Likewise, people won't accept that. And if there is a crisis in food, it'll create immense global uncertainty. We don't want that, and people will just migrate. They'll go to Europe, they'll go to Australia, they'll go to America. And then no matter what you put up in the way of a border, we'll be able to stop them. They'll just make their own arrangements. So it's in everybody's interest to make sure that we keep people safe and well fed in their home.